Hello, I am Thomas Emeric, and welcome back to Against the Ropes, your source for your wrestling news. Today, we've got a very special guest joining us. You can hear him on SiriusXM Fight Nation, channel 156, every morning on Busted Open from 9 a.m. till noon Eastern. Please welcome the one and only Dave LaGreca. Dave, how are you this afternoon? Welcome to the show.
I'm good, Thomas. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing amazing. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
No, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So I have a couple questions I have prepared that I want to ask. So first off, talk a little bit about your career. How did you get into professional wrestling, and what made you want to start a professional wrestling talk show on SiriusXM?
Okay, I've been doing radio for about 24 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously always being a pro wrestling fan, having a wrestling show is something I've always wanted to do. And I got the opportunity to work at SiriusXM, which was in 2004. Myself and Doug Mortman, who was my former co-host, we started together. We really pushed to get a wrestling show, and they gave us an opportunity. This is again back in 2009 for an hour once a week, and then from there it grew. But it's something that I've always been passionate about. I've always been a pro wrestling fan. I've been a fan since I was 10, and there was nothing really like it. You know, this is going back before really podcasting, you know, and all the growth of wrestling podcasts. So thanks to the nation, I always say this, thanks to the popularity and the nation really wanting more, that's how the show really grew. It grew from there.
That's awesome. And now, what are some of your biggest accomplishments in the radio industry, and talk about what they've meant to you?
No, I mean, without a doubt, my biggest accomplishment has been Busted Open. You know, I've worked with the NHL, I've worked with the NFL, I've worked at WFAN, ESPN, I've worked many different places, but doing Busted Open, which is now, you know, next month will be, well, actually, last month it was 14 years, was our 14-year anniversary. Next month will be my 19-year anniversary at SiriusXM.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is an incredible accomplishment. Congratulations.
thank you. But Busted Open by far is my biggest accomplishment. It's what I'm most proud of in my career, and it's something that I hope to continue to be doing for a long time.
That's awesome. And just talk a little bit about your co-hosts, Bully Ray and Mark Henry. Like, just talk about what they've meant to you, like, throughout these past couple of years, like taking the time out of their day to to co-host with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, these are, you know, it was really Bully was the first. Bully was the first like name that really contacted me, and he was a fan of the show. He was a frequent guest on the show, and we had a conversation, and he said, "Hey, do you want to take the show to the next level?" And I said, "Absolutely." And he jumped on board the show, which is, I mean, 2016 is when he joined the show. And then it just built from there. And Mark Henry was somebody that was our very first guest on he was a guest on our first show. Him and Prince Nana were our two guests on our very first Busted Open show. And Mark's been a fan. And I remember speaking with Mark at WrestleMania in Texas, WrestleMania 32. And I said, "Hey, when you finally say you've had enough, love for you to be a part of the show." And then then Tommy Dreamer, obviously, and he's been amazing. And he had radio experience prior, and then Thunder Rosa and Mickey James. I can't say enough of our co-hosts. I think all of them bring a different perspective to the show and a different energy to the show. They're all very, very different, but they're all a major asset to the show. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
And now, What are some of your biggest obstacles that you have had to face as a host on the radio, and how are you able to overcome these obstacles?
Oh, I've yeah. The biggest obstacle, even with Sirius XM, is just to be taken serious. I don't think they really understood the popularity of wrestling or the popularity of the show. And it
Hmm.
really took time to get a lot of the people there to support the show. There's a couple people, Marissa Rivas, Andy King. Those are two executives that always had my back, always believed in the show,
Hmm.
always wanted to see the show grow, but not everybody was like them. So they were kind of definitely people that helped in a real big way. But that was the biggest obstacle, was just getting people to believe, and it's still a hurdle and a struggle. But for the most part now, because of the numbers and the sheer volume of our listeners, it's not nearly as tough as it was. But that was the biggest obstacle, was just getting people to respect pro wrestling and to respect the show.
What keeps you motivated if something goes wrong during the program or in your personal life?
Well, I mean, I think this is for anybody who's a professional broadcaster or anything like that, or an entertainer. You kind of have to keep whatever drama, and everybody has it, any kind of stress that you have in your family life or your personal life. You gotta kind of shut the door on that and kind of keep that. Just you just got to find a way to like not let that bleed in. It's a difficult thing to do, but it's something you have to do, because you can't
Hmm.
let your personal life bleed into your professional life. So that's always that could be a struggle, because everybody has their everyday stresses, but you're gonna have to just learn to turn that off.
Hmm.
And as far as mistakes on the show, you just got to roll with it. You got to
Yeah.
own it. You can't ignore it. So just own it, roll with it, and do the best way you can to overcome it.
Hmm. And now, who has been the most influential person in your life, and how has this person impacted you?
Wow, that's a great question. There have been a lot of people. My brother, who's also in the same field, he's been a great inspiration. My wife Violetta has really embraced this lifestyle, the wrestling business. Not and she was never a fan. And
Hmm.
then my co-hosts, Bully, Mark, Tommy, Thunder, Mickey, they're all very inspirational. I'm still learning from them because I'm not a wrestler, so I'm always learning from them. But there's somebody that really, really inspire me, and mostly it's the Busted Open fans, the nation. They inspire me. People like you, Thomas, that want to become broadcasters or want to do podcasts because they are influenced by the show. Like they're definitely an inspiration to me to keep rolling and keep going.
Hmm. Yeah, this show definitely helped me make my show that I'm doing for my school now, Against the Ropes. That Busted Open has really inspired me to like get this started and bring this to like a whole nother level. So I thank you for like inspiring me to
Oh,
do
thank
this.
you. That means a lot to me. Thank you, Thomas.
You're welcome. What was the first ever pro wrestling event you've been to or watched either live or on TV, if you could remember?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely remember. I mean, the first pro wrestling show that I ever went to was in March of '84 at the Meadowlands. My dad took me to see the WWF. The main event was Hulk Hogan against Dr. D. David Schultz. I still have the program here in my office. That was. Do you want me to go get it?
If you want to,
Hold on, I'll go get it. Hold on, I got it here somewhere. But this is actually the program of the first wrestling event I ever went to.
oh my gosh.
And yeah, it's Sunday, March 11th, 1984, and it has the card right here. And the main event was Hogan against Dr. D. David Schultz. It also had a battle royal involving Andre the Giant. And yep, that was March of 1984. March 11th. So um, that's going on, 40 years almost. I try to keep all my programs. I have a ton of them from when I was a kid.
Hmm.
Um, so I try to, that was like a big deal because when you used to go to wrestling shows, they would have an insert in the program of all the matches that were going to happen that night.
Hmm.
Uh, and then they don't really do that anymore, not for live events or anything like that. You pretty much don't know what you're going to see that night. But back then they would announce all the matches, and then they
Yeah.
actually during right before intermission they would announce the card for next month's show,
Oh my
and
God.
then you would have the opportunity to go to the box office and buy tickets for the next month's show. So yeah, I tried to keep like all of, this is one of my favorites. It's just from 1985. It was the first ever show of both the AWA and NWA on the East Coast. This is at the Meadowlands,
Hmm.
Star Wars 85.
Oh my God.
And that was the first time I was able to see the Road Warriors live. First time I was able to see Ric Flair live. So um, that was awesome. So yeah.
That's incredible. Like I personally, I don't know if I would be able to keep those. Like, so when I go to WrestleMania, I usually get the WrestleMania program at the Superstore. So like I have like a piece of memorabilia to like remember my WrestleMania trip. So it's always fun to collect the programs.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Hmm. And now, which wrestler growing up was your favorite to watch?
No, my the first wrestler I fell in love with, or well, actually, I shouldn't even say that. The first wrestler I ever saw was Tommy Wildfire Rich. So that was like my first wrestler that I followed that I really liked. And then I remember buying a wrestling magazine, and there was a picture of Jimmy Superfly Snuka in the
Hmm.
magazine. And then I had never watched WWF wrestling before. I only watched Georgia Championship Wrestling. And then I saw that picture, and I was like, oh, I wasn't aware that there was all this different wrestling and all these different companies and territories and stuff. And that's when I started watching WWF, and my favorite was Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Hmm.
Then around late 1984, it was the first time I saw the Nature Boy Ric Flair wrestle, and from that moment on, he was my all-time favorite.
So your favorite like right now is Ric Flair, if
Oh
I'm
yeah, from he to me, he's the greatest of all time.
it's honestly crazy to see like the accomplishments like he was able to have in professional wrestling, like to become like 16-time world champion. Like it's absolutely crazy. And then you got John Cena, like who's like tied that record basically. It's just incredible. The
Oh yeah,
comp.
I mean,
Mhm.
he's and we had John Cena on the show recently, and just the one thing that a John Cena has, a Ric Flair has, the true greats have, is that they embrace it daily, and I think John Cena was an example of that, and so was Ric Flair.
Mhm. Now I have a question. Was that your first time having John Cena on Busted Open?
No, I've had John Cena on before. I believe that may have been the fourth time that he was on the show, but it was the first time in a long time. Like I think probably the first time in maybe 9 years that he's
Um,
been on the show. Yeah,
wow. What's
yeah.
it like being in a room with John Cena? Because like I know John Cena is probably like one of the biggest stars in the world right now. So like what's it like being in a room with him?
Well, I mean when I mean it's really not like for me like John Cena, or even if you're taking a wrestler that is currently wrestling, I never really get nervous. I get more excited about meeting them or questions I want to ask them, but I
Hmm.
never really get nervous. The only times I get nervous are like childhood heroes or child like wrestlers I met, that I first saw when I was a kid. Because
Hmm.
then I kind of become a kid again when I see them. Tommy Dreamer always makes fun of me because whenever Tommy Rich is on the show, I always get like a little nervous because that was the first wrestler I've ever saw. So whenever I see Tommy Rich, I always look back as like when I was a kid, but I never really get nervous for anybody that's, somebody that has wrestled in the last, 5, 10, 15 years because I'm an adult and
Hmm.
I wasn't really a kid when I saw them, but when it's a childhood hero, that's when I get kind of nervous.
Hmm. I would get a little nervous too. Like if I saw like someone who I grew up watching, like Daniel Bryan, like he was the first big like pro wrestler I saw like growing up. So like if I had like to interview him one day, I'd get like pretty nervous,
Yeah,
honestly.
but once you start talking, and then that all goes away.
Hmm.
It's more about the anticipation and the leading up to the moment. But I've noticed this about anything that I've done, even some of my TV appearances, where I get kind of nervous. Like once it starts and once you're in the moment, you don't all that kind of goes away. Even with like ISPW, and I'm lucky enough. Tommy Fierro lets me work, with ISPW, and I don't wrestle, and I'm not athletic, and I've never had any training. So like whenever I do anything for ISPW, I always get a little nervous. Like I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to make a mistake.
Hmm.
But once you go through the curtain and you see the fans and you just get excited, and the nerves kind of go away. So I think if you were interviewing Daniel Bryan, like once you started talking, you probably wouldn't be nervous anymore.
Hmm. And then also to talk about ISPW, I know you manage the one and only Rick Recon. So talk a little bit about what he's meant to you.
Well, for Rick and for, anybody that I've worked closely with, Danny Morrison's another one, Maven, because I
Hmm.
was with Danny and Maven for a while, and now with Rick Recon. I'm always appreciative because I'm stepping into their world. So I always want to be respectful for what they do. And like, if there's something that's going on a match, I even say this to Rick. I just was like, I just don't want to screw up because I don't want to make a mistake or make them think that I'm not taking it serious because I never want that to come. I never want them to think that at all. I always want them to believe that I'm invested 100%. So I'm always they've been great to just kind of open that door and let me be a part of their world, which I'm very grateful for. And I love it. Like I love ISPW. I love doing those shows. They're
Hmm.
so much fun, and it's always a pleasure being able to do that.
That's awesome. Like I honestly love going to ISPW events because like they're always like so close to like where I'm from because I'm from Wayne. So like they're always just like a driveway, probably like 20 minutes away, like at the
Yeah,
most. So like it's always like so accessible to get to, and like that's what I love about ISPW. It's honestly like a great promotion, and I'm
it
happy.
really is. It's
Yeah,
great, and like you, it's all their shows are super close.
yeah.
And I have like a really full schedule of events outside of ISPW. So Tommy Fierro is very patient with me as far as like he kind of works around my schedule, which I'm thankful for because I can't do every show. So I try to do at least one show a month.
Hmm. That's awesome. And going back to the questions, I just have a couple more questions here to
Sure.
ask. Um, from this generation, who is your favorite wrestler to watch, either male or female or both?
Right now in wrestling,
Yes.
I love Charlotte Flair. I think she's amazing. I think she's the best women's wrestler right now. She's extremely athletic and she's got a lot of charisma. So Charlotte Flair would be my favorite woman, but there's so many too. I love Mickey's still wrestling. I love watching Mickey
Hmm.
wrestle. She's injured right now, Thunder Rosa, but Thunder Rosa is awesome to watch. Those would probably be like right now my favorites.
Hmm.
And then when it comes to men, Roman Reigns,
Yeah.
he definitely he is definitely the biggest superstar. He's the biggest box office star. Like Bully asked me this question on the show recently, and like if I was to start a wrestling company, like a fantasy wrestling company, my number one draft pick would be Roman Reigns. He just brings so much, and he just keeps getting better.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that he's about to break 1,000 days as Universal Champion. It's just like mind-boggling that he's about to break
And
a
all,
thousand
also,
days.
also has all these WrestleMania main events
Yeah,
he's had. You know,
I think he's had like two in a row. No, not yeah, like two
no,
in a
he's had
row.
more than that. Well, I think about it. He
Yeah.
main evented WrestleMania 31. He main evented WrestleMania 32.
Hmm.
Um, he wasn't the main event WrestleMania 33. He wrestled the Undertaker, but I don't think that was the
Yeah,
main
that
event.
was. I think that was that was the main event.
That was the main event.
Yes,
So WrestleMania 33. WrestleMania 34, he wasn't he wasn't involved in WrestleMania 34, I don't think.
he faced Brock Lesnar
He
for
was,
the
and that was
Universal
the main, and
Championship.
that was the main
Yep.
event. And
Hmm.
WrestleMania, because I remember he was away because of his cancer, but he wrestled at WrestleMania 35. That wasn't the main event.
Yeah, he faced Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, that was earlier on in the show.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, main event of WrestleMania 39, main event of WrestleMania 38. Um, he's had so many main event WrestleManias. It's pretty crazy when you think about it.
And like just the names, like he's beaten over the years, like Daniel Bryan, Edge, John Cena, Seth Rollins, um, just like a whole laundry list of guys like top stars right now. He's beaten. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and the Bloodline story is the best story going. So
Yeah. And speaking about this bloodline story, do you think that Roman Reigns is going to turn on the Usos?
I mean, it seems like it's happening right now. But I think there's always a method behind it. So I don't think he's going to turn on them, but he's expecting more from them. So I think he's kind of turning on the heat, hoping that they rise to the occasion.
Who would you like to see turn? Would you like to see Solo turn on the Usos or Roman turn on the
I
Usos?
don't want to see any of them turn on each other. I actually would love to see the bloodline stay together. I think everyone's looking at one of them turning, but I actually don't want to see them turn. I want this group, this bloodline to stay together and to succeed and keep growing. If anything, I want to see more members added to the
Hmm.
bloodline. There's so many. Their lineage and their family is so large that I would love actually to see more from them.
Yeah, I would love to see Tamina join the bloodline. I think she's like such an underrated talent right now that like I think she deserves to be part of that faction. That'd be really cool to see. And then
Yeah,
also maybe like Nia Jax as well. I don't think they're gonna bring her back, but that'd be cool to see Nia Jax join the bloodline.
I agree.
What is your favorite storyline that you've watched on TV?
Ever or right now?
Either yeah, ever or right now. It's up to you.
I mean,
Whichever.
I love the bloodline story. I think the bloodline story is absolutely fantastic. I'm totally invested. I think it's going to lead to even bigger things for WrestleMania 40.
Mhm.
Um, there's so many great stories throughout. I mean, I kind of look at more of feuds, and you want to call it story or feuds. The Tommy Rich Buzz Sawyer feud, Dusty and Ric Flair is one of my all time, if not my all time favorite feud. There's so many, but those are probably my favorites.
Who has the best finisher of all time, past or present?
I'm probably going to go with Jake the Snake Roberts and the DDT. I think that's probably the most famous.
Hmm.
And he protected it so well. Finishers aren't really protected anymore. On pay per views, it seems like every match there's a kick out. I think one wrestler that's really protected his finish is Kenny Omega with the One Winged Angel.
Mhm.
But if I had to pick one all time favorite, it would be Jake's DDT.
All right. Who has the best theme song of all time?
My personal favorite would be Iron Man for the Road Warriors, but I don't think you can really beat uh, Judas with Chris Jericho because it's his entrance theme. He sings his entrance theme, and everybody in the arena sings the entrance theme. So it's pretty hard to beat, Chris Jericho's entrance.
Yeah, it's always so fun going to an AEW event and just singing Judas like with the whole crowd. It's just a blast. And then
Yeah.
and then also recently Cody Rhodes like they've been singing a little bit of his entrance with the whoa.
Yeah, no,
That's
yeah, and Seth Rollins and his
yeah.
entrance and everything, and back in the day, the Freebirds, Bad Street USA,
Mm.
those are definitely some of the top entrance themes. And I love talking entrance themes. We've done specials on entrance themes, and it's just like Stone Cold's entrance theme is
Yeah.
iconic. There's so many. Ultimate Warriors is lights out. Tommy Dreamers, Man in the Box is
Yeah.
cool. So yeah, there's so many, but those are some of my favorites.
Who is your favorite baby face?
It's never a babyface guy, but if I was to pick a favorite, it would be right now with Cody.
Cody.
I think everybody knows how much I love Cody.
Yeah.
So yeah, Cody would be my pick.
He's so over right now.
I
It's
think so. I think so too. And I'm hoping that he gets his moment, next year at WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's what I'd love to see. I think you give him a year of hard times, and then WrestleMania 40, he beats Roman for the undisputed Universal Championship. That's how he's got to end the story. Personally, I think that'd be
Agreed. I
that'd be
think so
such a
too.
home it'd be such a homecoming for him. Be
It would be
perfect.
awesome. Yeah.
Now, who's your favorite heel of all time?
It would be Ric Flair.
Leclerc.
I think he was the perfect heel. He was a great world champion, traveling champion. He would go from territory to territory, facing the top baby face in each territory. So Ric Flair would be my choice.
That's a good choice. Personally, like from this generation, I see MJF as being like a modern day Ric Flair.
Well, if
Honestly,
if I had to pick a heel right now, it would be MJF.
he's like so uncensored right now. His promos have been unbelievable. It's just like crazy to see like where he's gone from in 2019 when AW first started to now. It's incredible to see like how he's like improved on the
Yeah,
mic.
his growth has been incredible. I'm a big fan.
Mhm. And now I just have a couple more questions here. Who is your favorite tag team?
The Road Warriors.
Road Warriors.
Yes, without a doubt, no question. I don't even have to think about it.
Who is your favorite faction?
The Four Horsemen.
Who has the best mic skills, past or present?
Ric Flair, the past, MJF, the present.
Who's the most overrated?
The most overrated. Wow. I'm gonna get uh I'm gonna get killed on this one, and this is not disrespectful, so don't take it that way. But I'm gonna go with Bret Hart.
Bret Hart?
Yes,
Wow.
yes. I know I'm gonna get killed on that, but a lot of people put him in that upper echelon of the greatest of all time. I think he falls just underneath that. Yeah, and listen, when I say that, I know a lot of people hear that and be like angry. When you say overrated, I think people look at him as one of the greatest, and he is great. There's no doubt, but he's not in my personal top 10.
Mhm.
He's in the top 25 all time.
Yeah.
it's that's why it's a difficult question to answer. Just for me, he's not like the top of the top, but he's still great. He's still up there as one of the greats. He's just not to me on that
Mhm.
top 10 list that I put together.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. He's probably like on my like top 30, I would say, of like greatest wrestlers of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's had some amazing matches.
Oh
Like
my
you,
God, yeah. But I don't, and his it's just this thing that like he did a lot for tag team wrestling. He was in the Hart Foundation. He was a world champion. I just don't put him on that upper echelon of the top 10 for me personally.
now who is the most underrated?
The most underrated wrestler of all time. I'm gonna say somebody that probably a lot of people won't think of. Again, if you ask me this question tomorrow, you might get a different answer. But I think a Rick Martel. I think when people think of Rick Martel, they think of Rick Martel, the model Rick Martel, him
Mhm.
in the WWF. But Rick Martel's a former world champion. He was the face of the company in the AWA for a long time. I don't think he gets the flowers he deserves. I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame, which he should be because he's definitely on that list of one of the greats.
And now, for someone looking to get into professional wrestling, either looking to become a professional wrestler or something in the industry, what advice would you give them?
I would tell them to go to Bully School, the Team 3D Academy. Um, and there's one in Florida and there's one in Danbury, Connecticut. Like that's what I would give to anybody that wanted to be a pro wrestler. I would tell them to go to the 3D Academy.
Well, Dave, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for coming on Against the Ropes and talking with me. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come and join me on Against the Ropes. I really appreciate it. But before we go, who is on your Mount Rushmore of professional wrestlers?
All right, my Mount Rushmore would be Ric Flair, Terry Funk, Hulk Hogan, and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That sounds like an amazing Mount Rushmore. I would definitely go visit that if that was real. I would 100% go.
All
But
right.
that is all the time we have for this episode. Thank you again, Dave, for coming on Against the Ropes. I really appreciate you coming on here. Good luck with uh with the rest of the show this week, and just thank you so much again for coming on.
You got it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. It's a pleasure to always talk to you on the radio and to always hear your voice on Busted Open. It always makes my day. Like when I'm listening to Busted Open. Like if I'm having a bad day, I would always tune in to Busted Open.
Thanks, Thomas. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much again.
All right, buddy. Thank you.